Do you use Filmora? Do you want to add some dynamic zooms to your little videos? Do you want to follow objects around the screen? You know how you see in other videos, they can always have like that little motion tracking, right? You know, take this water bottle, for example. We're just going to follow that around the screen, right? It's going to be a real pain for me to edit later. Now in Filmora, first of all, let me say it's a very friendly user interface. I found Filmora back during lockdown and I wanted to start making some content of my own. And I just did what everybody does and they just Google free video editing software, blah, blah, blah. And Filmora popped up for me at that time. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And over the years, I've played with it little by little by little. Lately, over the past few months, half a year or so, I've started to dive a little deeper into the content creation of things. And I found some tips and tricks of my own that achieved this goal that I wanted to do. I wanted to do the motion tracking. I wanted to do those dynamic zooms that I was talking about. And I'm here to show you my way of doing that because I've played around with some other suggestions and it wasn't for me. I found some inconsistencies there and I hope this video helps you, but also helps Filmora to, I don't know, incorporate or work on some better ideas to make it easier for us to do this. So let's go give it a shot, shall we? So what we're gonna do first here is we are going to show you how to do my fun dynamic zoom. And I mean, obviously you're not going to hear any of this as I'm editing it because you're going to see the final product anyway. So it doesn't really matter, but I'll show you how I edit all of this fun stuff. Hopefully somebody knows a better way. Because again, I've tried playing around with keyframing. It did not work for me. I didn't find it very consistent, I would say. I'm not sure how to explain this. I'm just going to show you how I do this. When you're talking and emphasizing stuff like in this little clip here, I'm just kind of saying something, but then I come to a point I want to make and I want to get that real quick in zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over 6 times on the arrow key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that way, like this is where a timeline really plays a point in this. So I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to cut again here. But just to add a little love to the still shot here, I don't want it to be still. I want it to have a small bit of motion to it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a small little zoom in. I'm going to do it at 1720. And for my values, I always like to just subtract 200 from each value. And I would like for them to find a way of allowing you to save presets for your values on your zooms and your crops and all that stuff. Like say I want to go from 1920 to 1720, having the start and end point, I should be able to put in those two values and then have somewhere along the lines of this window to just press save of those values. And that way, after I save it, there's a little scroll wheel here that you can then just find your presets of values and just add them to the screen. Also, another thing I want to point out real quick is I would like it for when, if I just put in a value higher than what it's stationary or what it's, I can't think of the word right now, but when it's higher than the value that it's already set at, say, because I want to go to 1720 right now. Let's say I put in 1720. It doesn't go to the full 1720. It just goes to a certain value and it always expands down to this corner. What I would like for you guys, if you can, ever so kindly, when I put in a certain value that's higher than intended, have it just expand in all 4 corners in the middle of the screen. Because that way, then I can just grab it and I can put it wherever I want. And I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to apply it right there. And now we're going to go for the fast zoom in part. I'm going to copy it with Control-Alt-C. And I'm going to go into that little 6-frame cut that we made. And I'm going to paste that effect in Control-Alt-V. I'm going to open this up with Alt-C. Alt-C opens up your crop and zooms. We still have that value, right? But we're going to zoom in further from the 1720 ending. And what we're going to do is we're going to flip the start and end points so that the 1720 is now my initial starting point. And it's going to keep that same frame, but I'm going to change the value and I'm going to zoom in 1 time and I'm going to subtract it by 200. So I'm going to do 1520. Again, this is where the presets would save me because then I could just save the 1720 to 1520. I could just do that, grab the screen, and do that instead of having to type it in every single time. I'm going to apply that to this scene. I'm going to listen a little forward, see if I want to make another cut anytime soon. So I'm going to listen to all this and then I'm going to jump down to here because this is where I make another little emphasizing point. So I'm going to do another 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and make another cut there. But for these 2 spots here, right here, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this value and we're going to paste it here. And instead of having it, I would say, you know, do the do the pan and zooms again, we want this to be our static shot. This is our new crop image. So what we can do so we don't lose the position of this frame, we just flip it, we go to crop, and it keeps the end position from that quick zoom. So we're also going to go over here. We're also going to just paste it, what we just copied from this guy over here. We're going to paste it over here. We're going to open it back up, and we're going to flip again. But we're going to zoom in one more time. We're going to do a 1320. So got that in there, and I just go boop, and you know, that's where the whole control and paste comes into play, and then you rotate it, and then you crop, and then you have that fun static shot right there. As we can see in the preview, we'll go from the beginning of this track here. That's that slow zoom in. You get that fun punch in there, you get that other zoom, and then this is just going to be another example. Again, you'll see all this, you'll hear all the audio and get the contextualization later on in the film, not in the film, in the video. And it's nice with these, if you look at your audio tracking, you can kind of tell when you're about to use that in a sense as to where you want to cut, but also they have the silence detection, which is really, really helpful, I believe, in making your videos. 2, 3, 5, 6. I always forget how to count. What I would like for them to do, and I know you can use keyframing for this, but this is where you would lose kind of your positionings of the cameras. And I've tried it. I've messed around with it. It's very inconsistent, but what I would like for them to do and try and implement this is if you can just take, let's just say this little section here, instead of making 2 little cuts there. So here are my 2 zoom in points right here, right? And then I'm going to make the static shot. Now, instead of me having to do these 2 parts separately, allow me to add again, let's say this is just one clip right here. This is a combined clip, these 2 little slivers. Let me put in my zoom value with a slider that adjusts the speed on how quickly it reaches the end point in that shot. I don't know if that would be easier or a little more finicky or inconsistent, but it'd be something that I would like to see tested. Because again, it's consistent, but it's a lot of work for me to do. But it does come out better than keyframing, in my opinion. And also, as you can see, when I'm doing this, I'm always trying to make sure I have a very solid pivot point or an anchor point in my shots. Like normally I try to keep it on the eye. Sometimes, depending on the value of your shot or your screen values, that anchor point will go away. And it would also be nice to try and see them implement an anchor point. So what I would like for them to do, if they can, is if they can add, when you get into this screen, you just put an anchor point. Like, I don't know, I have a little icon here with an anchor point icon. Grab it, click where you want it, and that will be your ending point or something like that. And that way, when you put in your values, it will always be fixed to that anchor point on your zooms, on your pans, or on anything. I understand that this is what these X's are for each, the start and ends and all that stuff. And this is just me throwing out ideas. I'm not sure if it'd be a good idea, a bad idea, what it would be, but just something to think about. So yeah, and that's how I get my zooms. It's for when you want to really add that punctuation, or you just want to be goofy, right? Or just, let's just say you're thinking, you have a slow pan coming in, you're thinking, some dead silence, and oh, there it is. There's the idea, there's the conclusion in my brain. And then you have that quick zoom out followed by the slow pan out, because you're gonna have a scene with a lot of dialogue. You're kind of explaining something, but you don't want it to be a static shot. You don't want it to seem empty or lifeless. That slow zoom out gives that little bit of motion, and it brings the room to life. It brings the whole shot to life, which is why I like to do that from time to time. So now I'm going to show you how I do the motion tracking. Again, this is going to be a very tough process. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm a fan of the end product. So what you're going to want to do is find your spaces as to where the motioning is happening that you want to capture. Again, we're just going to use the bottle. You've seen it before. I'm going to show you how it's done. It's just a good example. So here's me talking. This section here is, I'm just going to mark it purple. This is what we're going to cut up to follow the motion of that bottle. And we're going to zoom in actually quite a bit here, because what I found to be a very good rule of thumb for this is cutting it every 20 frames or so, or not 20, every 20 milliseconds, or 20 frames actually, yes. So I'm actually just going to start here. I'm going to go every 20. So I'm going to go to 20, I'm going to go to 40, 25, 20 again, so on and so forth through the little section that you cut up yourself. And that actually ends perfect right there. So first things first, we're going to go back into our pan and zoom with Alt C, and we're going to change our values. And our start and our ends are always going to, well, I shouldn't say always. It depends on if you want to zoom in and out as you're following it, but I'm going to go with always. So I'm going to make these both the same values. And for the shot that you saw in the beginning of this video, I did 1020 for both screen. It just kind of keeps the bottle in frame, and it's just all around a decent thing to have. So you have your crosshairs in there. So I'm always going to try and keep it in the middle of the object I'm trying to follow. And what we're going to do for our end shot is we're going to go to the end of the timeline of that cut section, and I'm going to place that crosshair yet again in the middle. Try to keep the bottle in the frame as well, but we're also going to keep doing that copy and paste method we did earlier, and then flipping the start and end position. But after you flip the start and end positions, always go to the end of that timeline, grab your end position, and follow that bottle. And we're going to keep doing that until we finished every part of the section that we cut out for ourselves that we want to track the object. Again, very tedious. This is something I feel like they can fix, and I will show you an example of how they can fix this or implement this in some sort of way to make this much easier. So let me just finish this up and I will show you that idea here in a second. And that's how you saw me moving this around, is all those little cuts. I know it's very tedious, but it works. It's the most consistent way that I could find it to work. Now, this is where I feel like they can implement this, because I'm still rotating the bottle and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this section here, and there is motion tracking. They have motion capturing, and they have planar tracking. But unfortunately, can I see the box that I'm trying to motion capture? They're going to make me do this over again because they're analyzing the screen for motion. Now, you can take this box, you put it on here, and you could start tracking again. So that way it somewhat captures it, right? But it's only going to capture the motion and let you apply either a PNG or JPEG, or it's only going to allow you to attach images to this box. What I would like for them to do is allow you, when you zoom in, is allow you to attach the camera or the scene itself to this image, if that makes any sense. Because planar training, it sounds like it would do that, track and replace planes and videos, perfect for obscure license plate. I mean, again, that's just for images that you want to attach to a scene. Motion tracking, it's essentially, these two are essentially the same thing. They don't really differ in any way, shape, or form. So what I would like for them to do is what we did here, since we're zoomed in on these values, right? Have us zoom in on the value that we want to capture that. Let us use the motion capturing algorithm or whatever programming you have in there, and let us follow the image itself as we would throughout this entire all of this, and that would give us that end result that we're looking for. I feel like that is actually doable, but again, I'm not a software engineer. I'm not sure how you would be able to implement that, but I feel like you guys can find a way. And if you can, that is going to be a game changer for anybody who uses this software for content creation. It's going to add a fun dynamic to their videos, and it's just going to be overall solid, in my opinion. So those are the few things that I'd like to see. Now, hopefully what I just showed you does help you in some way, shape, or form if you use Filmora. But again, if you found a way to do these things yourself and have different methods, I would love to hear about them. If you have video suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I'm always looking for better ways to improve my workflow, but this is the best way that I found for me to do it. Again, it looks like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. It's a big pain in the ass and a huge pain on the wrist. So if this helps, I'm glad it's helped you. Try and add something fun and new to your videos. If this helps Filmora find better ways to improve on certain aspects in their software, that would be fantastic. I would love to see that update come true, because they do have a lot of AI implements and all these other innovations coming out. They do updates pretty frequently from what I've seen in most anything, really. Again, I have not tried any other video editing software, so I haven't tried DaVinci. I don't, excuse me, I don't know if they have something similar to it. I've done some I've watched a couple videos on their zooms, and it almost seems kind of the same in a way, but I know a lot of people use DaVinci Resolve and all that stuff. I might play around with it later and do comparisons of these, but overall, I wanted to get this out there just to see if there was a better way of doing this for what I use it for. But thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.